Hey there, guys. How's it going? I hope you're all doing well, and yeah, I hope you're all coping with this lockdown a lot better than I am. I tell you that. I've been starting to lash out a bit, if I'm being honest. Just trying to go about my day as I usually will, and everybody around me's panicking. Everybody around me's acting like a fucking idiot, and yeah, I've had a few near altercations, and basically this lockdown is taking its toll, man. I'm just not in a good state of mind at the moment. I'm really not. I don't like the fact that everybody around me seems to be malfunctioning. Because I'm trying to ignore this shit. I'm trying to keep myself to myself and just live my life as I would, regardless of whether or not there's this lockdown. But again, it's hard to avoid the mass hysteria and the mass panic and the mass paranoia and the mass insanity, if I'm being perfectly honest, over this fake virus and yeah, this media scaremongering, which has got us all living like caged hens, basically, waiting for slaughter. It's disgraceful. I've ranted about it enough. Yeah, it's just disgraceful, man, and I'm not coping with it very well, if I'm being honest. Not coping with it very well at all. So let's move on. So what I wanted to talk about in this video, what I wanted to talk about really is an issue that I really thought I was done with. If I'm being honest, man, I didn't really want to have to revisit this issue, and I didn't really want to have to bring this up again. Didn't want to have to cover it. Didn't want to have to give it any light whatsoever. But you guys might recall several months back. I think about 6 months ago now, maybe even a little bit more. I don't know exactly, but it was definitely in the latter part of last year. I did a video where I was criticizing a documentary. I was critiquing it basically, a documentary that was put out by the BBC. And look, you guys who have been following me for any extended length of time, you know that I've been an open campaigner against the BBC. The BBC, I would love to see that company just burned to the ground, if I'm being honest. The BBC are an enemy of the British public. The BBC are a criminal organization. Okay, I've spoken in the past about how they are akin to the mafia in the way that they deal with customers and the way that they have deeply and severely negatively influenced British culture and British society. And look, I've done other videos about that. I've made plenty of content calling out the BBC and talking about how harmful and how disingenuous the BBC is, and how that company needs to go away. Like that company needs to die. It really does. I mean, I would not object to the British public taking up arms against the BBC and marching on the BBC and shutting that place down by force, burning that building to the ground and holding every single BBC employee to accountability. I would not be against that. It's that serious. It really is. And that can be said about the whole mainstream media, really, but I digress. Okay, I made that video months ago with the intent on calling out that documentary and the true intentions behind it. It was involving, of course, Jessie Nelson, the chick from Little Mix. And look, again, I've got nothing against that girl in general. All right, I don't know her. I don't know who. I'd never heard of Jessie Nelson by name before that documentary, before that was released. I had heard of Little Mix, obviously, but I don't pay much attention to the music industry, and that's what I really want to get into with this video. And the reason why I'm bringing it up again, and the reason why I'm going over old ground here, is because that video, although that video is an old one, and I actually made two videos about well, I made three. One of them was just a parody video I made, but I took that down. I took that video down because it was getting just it was upsetting a lot of people, and it was getting a lot of fangirls, getting their knickers in a twist, and they were getting sad, and they were, asking me, you're begging me to take, a lot of people begged me to take it down, saying that it made them sad, the funny Steven Seagal, Jesse Nelson parody that I posted. But yeah, I took that video down, so sorry to anybody who liked that video, but it's gone. But the other two are still up. The first one I did was where I was talking about Katie Hopkins, because in the documentary that they showed basically an old tweet from Katie Hopkins where she made a joke, and yeah, basically that people were getting in their feelings over it and sending death threats to Katie Hopkins, and making threats towards Katie Hopkins' children, and yeah, they actually set up GoFundmes and everything to try and get Katie Hopkins assassinated, and they were giving out Katie Hopkins' address and stuff like that, and it was getting really serious. And that's why I pointed out the hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of these Little Mix fans who were um, talking about online bullying and cyberbullying and stuff like that, yet they were openly calling for Katie Hopkins, who is a woman, because they're always talking about violence against women and stuff like that. But they were openly calling for violence and aggression against Katie Hopkins and insulting her appearance and basically doing all the things that they were accusing her of doing and more. Basically calling for extreme violence against this woman. And I was critiquing that. I was critiquing the BBC's coverage of the issue. I was critiquing the end of the documentary where the BBC actually gave out petitions and information regarding online privacy laws, because that was the end game of that documentary. The documentary wasn't necessarily about raising awareness about bullying or online bullying stuff like that. That was only a means to an end. And Jessie Nelson herself was merely a useful idiot. If you know what I mean by the term useful idiot. Useful idiot is a term to describe somebody who's just being used. Who's basically a puppet. Just a chess piece, basically a pawn on a chessboard being used. A piece of the puzzle. And the BBC, or the overlords running the BBC, were definitely the ones who were writing the script and telling her what to say and using her and her story as sort of a beacon for this end to online privacy laws. And I mentioned the lockdown earlier. With what's going on in the lockdown, we're seeing an extreme abuse of power from the police, turning us into essentially a surveillance state, a police state, trying to promote, communism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, and keeping us all in lock and key, telling us when we can go out and what we can buy and what we can spend our money on and what we can say. And anybody who posts about this coronavirus and has an alternative perspective on it, anybody who maybe is questioning the mainstream narrative is getting shut down and censored. Okay, I know that when I did videos on it, I was getting censored, demonetized, and whatnot, and so have everybody else who talks about it, unless you're 100% completely parodying and reiterating what the mainstream media and the government are saying. And that's the point I want to make when I'm talking about this documentary. Now, the documentary, like I said, the documentary was a complete travesty. It was a joke. I called out how disingenuous it was. But the feedback that I got for that video wasn't from individuals who wanted to talk politics. The feedback I got from that video wasn't about anything regarding the online privacy laws or the authoritarian stuff that was being promoted on display. No, the response that I got, sadly, from that video was vast majority from children. It was kids. And these children, of course, were not into politics. These children are not activists or anything like that. What these children essentially were Little Mix fans. They were fans of the band Little Mix. And what I kind of regret, I regret putting Jessie Nelson's name in the title. And obviously, look, the reason why I put her name in the title is because she was the narrator of the documentary. Okay, it was her story. It was her that was presenting it. She was the face of the documentary. She was the person trying to gain sympathy and gain support on behalf of what the BBC were trying to promote, which is, of course, an end to online privacy, which, of course, will lead to anybody's privacy being leaked and being willfully surrendered and given to the government. But I digress. The fans of Jessie Nelson and Little Mix in particular, the band, were the overwhelming majority of the people who saw that video. And that really, really, it scares me in a sense, because what that shows you is that children have more access to social media than I initially realized, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't particularly feel comfortable with the idea of children coming to my YouTube channel. I don't like the fact that I'm not saying I want my content to be like not suitable for children. I'm not saying that. Like, my content is suitable, but I don't like the idea of children having that kind of powers of overwhelming persuasion, if you know what I mean. Like, when you go to a video and the vast majority of the comments are from children telling you that what you're saying is wrong, when really these people are misguided. And I saw someone write misguided in the comment. I thought that's totally the word that I'm thinking. That's totally the word that suits this situation, because these people are on the video essentially man defending Jessie Nelson. They're essentially on the video saying, "You're bullying her. What you're saying is offensive, and she's such a queen." This, comments saying that. Oh, I don't even want to reiterate that shit. Just go and look at the comments if you want to know what I'm talking about. I'm seeing some right disturbing shit. Like it's disturbing that children say this type of shit about a celebrity. That brings me to the main point of this video, because again I've rambled enough. Let me get to what I'm talking about. So this backlash that I saw from the Jessie Nelson. Sorry, let me just adjust my computer here. Um, the backlash that I got from Jessie Nelson's fans and Little Mix fans. First of all, they missed the entire point of the video. They missed it completely. Secondly, I'm disturbed by what the music industry has done to the youth in this country. Now, I've talked in the past about how the entertainment industry in general is essentially a propaganda tool used by the ruling elites of the Western world. Hollywood, like I've said before, is a propaganda machine. The news and the mainstream media in general is all propaganda, right? It's all used as political um, political attacks against the people. They're trying to shape your mind and make you think a certain way, and it's the same with even video games to a certain extent. Video games have their own share of symbolism and propaganda, but I would argue, out of all the sources of media, out of all the sources of entertainment, the music industry, the music industry is the worst by far. Because one thing I've noticed about the music industry, this is how the music industry works, right? They are very, very good and very, very astute at preying on people's narcissism. Now, this is especially bad in young women. Now, obviously, the vast majority of fans of this band, Little Mix, are women. Now, Little Mix are a girl band, essentially. They're young girls in their 20s. I don't know exactly how old they are. I'm assuming they're in their 20s. I'm assuming they're probably around about my age. I'm 26. I just turned 26 recently. And I'm assuming that they're maybe a little bit younger than me, or maybe around about my age, maybe a little older. I don't know. But they're definitely my sort of generation. The music industry of my sort of generation promotes the absolute worst and the absolute most degenerate of female traits. Um, absolutely everything. And when I say the word everything, I'm not exaggerating. I mean the word everything. Everything in regards to these people is sexualized. All right, when these people go on stage, they dress like absolute tramps. Okay, these female celebrities, right? These female musicians are all about sex. All right, that's their entire appeal, is the way they look and the way they dress and the way they present themselves and the way they just the way that they portray themselves as a woman, right? The way that they portray themselves on stage in interviews and just everything about them is all sexualized. The music is 100% sexualized, all right? Lyrics are always sexual innuendos. You can listen to any pop song, right? Any modern day pop song, and they're always sexualized to one way or another. But not only are they sexualized, but when they're not entirely 100% sexualized, what they then are is they're promoting traits that I would view as even worse than sexual traits. And of course they go hand in hand. But the trait that I'm talking about is narcissism. Now, narcissism and vanity, but narcissism is the word I'll use because that's a lot more. It's more universal in this sense. Everybody seems to understand that word. Narcissism is essentially an overblown sense of self-importance. And that documentary, right, the documentary with Jessie Nelson that has gotten so many people emotional, has gotten so many people in their feelings, what that documentary absolutely reeked of from start to finish is an overinflated sense of self-importance. Now, the reason why these people follow these musicians, the reason why these young girls look up to people like Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and all these and Rihanna and all these slags, like all these absolute beasts, these Jezebels, these whores, these horrible women that promote horrible traits, and just horrible um, aspects of female nature. The reason why they look up to these women is because these women prey on their narcissism. Because as I've spoken many times on here about, females are considerably, and look, I know the media isn't telling you this, I know that the entertainment industry isn't telling you this, but females are considerably more narcissistic and have bigger egos than men. Look, guys, it's very simple. It's basic psychology. Why do women wear makeup? Why is it that women, the vast majority of women, at least, I'm not talking about women going back hundreds of years, but the vast majority of modern day women can't even leave the house without makeup. Why is that? The vast majority of modern day women can't go to a nightclub, or can't go to a bar, or can't go to happy hour at work, or can't even go to work without being absolutely dolled up, without dressing provocatively and wearing push-up bras and heels and showing off their figure and just doing absolutely everything they can to artificially increase their sex appeal. Let's just say what it is, guys. Let's just call it what it is. Let's not beat around the bush here. Okay, let's tell it what it is. Women in this day and age are obsessed with their appearance. Not only are they obsessed with their appearance, but there's a certain sense of self entitlement with a lot of these women nowadays, particularly younger women, women of my generation. Basically, you'll see women who are overweight, women who are basically just naturally of below average attractiveness, but they seem to view themselves as important, in a sense that, like, they're constantly, like I said, they've constantly got to paint their faces before they go out, and they've constantly got to be as provocative as possible, and they're always competing with each other, they're always competing with their friends. Women get very, very jealous of one another and very spiteful of one another. See, when men hang around, right, when men are friends, they don't tend to compete in terms of things like that. You know, they're not trying to look prettier than each other. They're not trying to dress up more fancy than each other. Men just hang out and they banter. You know, they bounce off one another, and you know, it's a different sort of dynamic there. But when it comes to women, women are extremely two-faced and extremely disingenuous with how they treat one another. And anybody who's worked in the corporate world, and I've talked about this before, anybody who has worked in the corporate world before will know and will tell you how spiteful and how two-faced women can be with one another, and how they are just constantly in competition and constantly tripping over their own egos, if you know what I mean. In the music industry, music is different to other media sources. It's different to other entertainment. Like, it's not like movies or video games or anything like that. Music is all about emotion. It's all about feeling. It's all about how you feel in that moment and how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself is it directly correlates with narcissism, doesn't it? Because you're listening to a song, and what a regular person would do, like a regular red pilled individual, he'll listen to a song, he'll listen to the lyrics, and he'll sort of decipher. Like, when I hear a song, and I'm not really into music, but when I hear a song, I sort of try to decipher what is this song about. You know, what are the lyrics saying? Like, are the rhymes any good? Stuff like that. Those are things that just off habit go through my mind if I hear a song. But these girls, right, these young girls who are into bands like Little Mix and Katy Perry and all these dumb celebrities, they hear this music, and it inflates their own ego. It makes them feel a high, like they feel high. They feel like they can take on the world. They feel like they're beautiful and they're superior, and they've got this amazingly over the top sense of self importance. Like, they listen to these songs and they think it's about them. They listen to these songs and they think that this music is speaking to them, and that the artist behind these songs cares about them, and that the artist is trying to connect with them on a personal level. That's simply not the case. Anybody who knows anything about the music industry knows that these artists do not write their own songs, even when they claim that they write their own songs, even where they're credited as having wrote their own songs. It's not the case. It's not true. These songs are written by corporations, right? They're written by elderly gentlemen in a boardroom together. There'll be like 10 or 12 of them writing these songs. Okay, they're not written by the artist. That's a very common industry practice, even when it's not, when it's not disclosed to the public. That's a very common industry practice. That's basically how the music industry works. And these artists, these female artists in particular, promote depravity. Uh, they promote being belligerent, being drunk, being foolish, being overly sexual, being narcissistic, being all about appearance, being all about, oh, it's me. And you'll see these comments all over the place. See, when you look at like music videos of these female artists, right? Just look in the comment sections. One of the things you'll see constantly is you'll see young girls who have these artists as their profile pictures, right? And they'll write in the comments, these people made me feel so good about myself. They made me feel so confident. They made me feel like a queen. They made me feel this, that, and the other. It's always about how they made me feel. They helped me deal with my issues. This, that, and the other. What they're essentially saying is that these artists fueled the narcissistic traits that these people already had. All right. You know what true confidence is? All right. Confidence is not about being loud. It's not about being belligerent. It's not about being, look at me, look how amazing I am, look how hard I am, this, that. That's not confidence. What these people promote with the way that they behave, where they're on stage dressed like a cheap hooker, trying to look all sexualized, and when they're dancing and being loud and talking about how inspiring they are and how everybody should get on their knees and kiss their ass. That's not confidence. What that is that's narcissism. All right, narcissism and confidence are not the same thing. Narcissism and an overblown sense of self-importance is a mask. It's a cover up. It's what these people do to mask their insecurities. Do you know who the most non insecure and the most confident people in the world are? Are the people who are quiet, the people who are assertive. It's called being an alpha. You hear the difference between being an alpha male and being a beta male. Alpha males are extremely confident and comfortable in their own skin. Alpha males don't tell you what they're going to do. They just do it. Like a classic example of an alpha male, because I follow boxing, you look at a guy like Manny Pacquiao, for example. Manny Pacquiao is a straight alpha. Now that dude is always smiling. He's always happy. He's always giggly. He's always positive and doesn't get emotional. That's one thing you see about him. When people criticize him, when people make racist comments towards him, or when people insult him or call him a midget and get in his face and try and rough him up and stuff like that, he doesn't get pissed off. He doesn't get overly emotional and start tipping tables over and talking about how hard he is. This, that. No, what Manny Pacquiao does in those instances is he just smiles and laughs it off, and then when he gets in the ring, he beats the fuck out of them, right? Kicks their ass, because he's an alpha male. Alpha males control their emotions. Alpha males don't get in their emotions, and they don't let their emotions control them. Now, when Jessie Nelson was in that documentary, she was typical narcissistic female, where somebody calls her fat on the internet. Right now, a confident person, when a person calls them fat, do you know what they would do? They would disengage. A confident person and a person who's comfortable in their own skin would ignore that. Okay, and was Jessie Nelson in that documentary? The fact that she made the documentary in the first place is a red flag, and I'll get to that in a minute. But in that documentary, did she tell you that when people write negative comments about you, or when people insult you, or call you fat, or call you ugly, this, that, and the other, that you should disengage? Did she tell you that you should just ignore it and just do you, and don't listen to this type of criticism, and just turn the phone off, and turn the other cheek, and just continue with your goals in life and being successful? Did she say that? No, that's not what she said. What she said was, and they said that I was fat, and woe is me, and you should feel sorry for me, but you should stay strong, because I'm a queen, and because that was her response, wasn't it? That was her response to somebody calling her fat on the internet. It wasn't, turn the other cheek. Total, it doesn't matter. because I'm confident, because I don't care. No, it was, crocodile tears. It was, please feel sorry for me. Please donate to me. Please cry for me. Your heart should bleed for me because I got insulted. That is beta behavior. Telling you right now, that's embarrassing. When I see people crying like that over being insulted, do you know what? I don't. Sometimes I might giggle and laugh, thinking that's pretty funny. But when it's done in a certain context, where they're trying to provoke a reaction from an audience and trying to gain sympathy in order to push an agenda that's being pushed by the BBC, I cringe and I facepalm, and that was why I felt compelled to make those videos and call out that documentary, because it was promoting this unhealthy, obsessive, narcissistic behavior. And that behavior from Jessie Nelson, I gotta say, her behavior in that documentary was fucking disgusting. And the way that she portrayed herself as a perpetual victim. And again, I covered this in the other video. I was talking about how she's rich and she's very successful. So for somebody who's rich and who's very successful and who's got a support system like that around her, she's got a boyfriend who loves her, she's got loyal friends, this, that, and the other. For somebody like that to break down in tears on camera and expect people to feel sorry for her and to play victim, I find that disturbing. To me, that's extremely disturbing. Do you know what that's like to me? That's like when I see people like Dave Allen. Again, I follow boxing. I see somebody like Dave Allen go on Twitter and say, I feel like committing suicide because this, that, and the other. I'm not even going to get into it. But when I see people like him or Ricky Hatton or somebody like that talking about wanting to commit suicide, I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up, right? Because this is the thing, right? See, when people tell you, and I maybe should have mentioned this earlier because this video has gone on way too long, but I maybe should have mentioned this earlier. When people tell you, I almost committed suicide, that is one of the most despicable, outrageous cries for attention I've ever heard. Because let me tell you right now, if you've ever, and look, am I speaking from personal experience here? Maybe. You can decipher whatever you want. I'm not going to get into that. I don't have the heart to get into that right now. If you've ever seen somebody attempt to commit suicide, or if you've ever known somebody who is suicidal, if you've ever known somebody who has a type of personality disorder, a borderline personality disorder, which leads to them having mood swings, or leads to them waking up feeling a certain way one day, but waking up feeling a certain way another day, where they just want to end it. Or if you've ever seen somebody who's in serious debt, somebody who can't see a way out, somebody who's maybe a working class or underclass individual who has been beaten to the point where they just, they've been beaten down by life to the point where they just can't see a way out of the situation that they're in, and they end up taking their own life or end up attempting to take their own life. If you've ever seen that or you've ever experienced that, and then you hear some celebrity on social media, and I'm getting worked up now as I say this, I shouldn't be, I should be, again, because it's that disgraceful, right? Then when you see some rich, spoiled celebrity on the TV saying, I almost committed suicide. I felt like committing suicide because the person called me fat and ugly. That is blood boiling. That is disgusting. It is the worst cry for attention I think I've ever heard. It's worse than. Do you know what I would akin that to? It's like somebody announcing that they're vegan, if you know what I mean. When somebody announces that I'm going vegan, it's a cry for attention. You're like, dude, shut the fuck up. No, you're not. Right? You're looking for attention. It's exactly akin to that. Right, when these celebrities, when these multi-millionaire celebrities who are worth like 25 million, something like that have got more than one house, that have got their pick of any car, they could have any partner they want, again, like because of the money that some of these people have, they could have any relationship that they want, they could have any support system that they want, any therapist or any like I said, support system. They can get anything that they want to treat their ailment, so to speak, but they're on TV crying and expecting you to feel sorry for them over the fact that they've been insulted. And I shouldn't have to explain to you how disgusting that is. And look, this has gone on far enough. The music industry promotes this type of behavior. It promotes victim culture. It promotes victim mentality. It promotes narcissism. It promotes an overblown sense of self-importance. It promotes self-centered, selfish, narcissistic, scummy behavior. It really does. And look, this video's, how long has this video gone on for now? 30 minutes. I've got to end this video soon, but in closing, look, bullying is wrong. No doubt about it. Bullying is wrong. But when it comes to these people on the internet who sort of live in this bubble, they live in social media. They live in a sense of self-entitlement. These are not people that I have an easy time sympathizing with. They're really not. So that's all I really have to say about this. The music industry is dangerous for young people because it turns them into victim-minded pieces of shit like Jesse Nelson. That's what it does. So it's a real shame. To all my younger viewing audience who are seeing this, God bless each and every one of you. Turn to Jesus Christ. You need Jesus Christ. You really do. You need some stability in your lives. You need to be humble. You really do. You need to be humble. You need to be sober, and you need to be vigilant. God bless each and every one of you. Stay vigilant, please. I implore you. From the bottom of my heart, I implore you, stay vigilant. God bless.